So, if you're like me, you didn't hear about the secret exotic quest until it was far too late. So, you hopped on Destiny and began fishing for hours on hours to no avail. But eventually, LFG after LFG, you got the gun. The new 180 scout rifle that honestly doesn't have much to offer. It isn't great in PvP since most meta scout rifles 3 tap to the head. It doesn't compare in low end and honestly most high end PvE scenarios since on the lower end of the spectrum you kill your enemies before you can activate the perk, and in most high end activities it takes almost a whole clip to stun champions. Well, that's what we're here to talk about. Is a scout rifle good? Is it worth taking the time to fish and find a group willing to take you through the deep dive? Or should you just not bother getting it at all? Well, sit back, enjoy a cup of whatever gamer juice you're drinking, and listen to me for a few minutes. I'm Neomezzo, and this is Let's Talk About It. Starting off, this weapon is called the Wicked Implement, and honestly, it's not that good. The gun itself looks incredible up until the point you take a look at the barrel. It actually just looks like they gave up halfway through the design. Looks like a Dyson vacuum to me. For the perks this atrocious gun has, we come up with corkscrew rifling, which increases range and stability, along with handling speed. Next, we have Accurize rounds, which increases range. For the intrinsic trait, we have Creeping Attrition. Rapidly landing precision hits causes targets to become slowed, which ties into Teething Harvest. What Teething Harvest does is precision final blows while Creeping Attrition is active, creates a stasis shard that returns to you, and that in turn refills your magazine. And last, we have Fitted Stock, which makes the weapon more stable and controls recoil, but in turn decreases handling speed. Going into Crucible, this weapon is a 4-hit kill if you land every shot to the head. And in this meta, the gun doesn't really compare to other weapons. Take like the Immortal and other scout rifles such as Mida for example. On top of that intrinsic perk, it's useless unless the other Guardian is in a well or peeking out of a bubble, and even then you can't kill him solely with a gun. You would have to freeze them and hot swap to your special or heavy. It's just not viable. Maybe that'll change with the catalyst, or maybe it won't. We won't be able to find out until someone gets the catalyst on their hands. Going into endgame content, the Wicked Implement could theoretically be viable against all champions, but in most cases it's only technically useful against stunning overloads and unstopped champs. Barrier champions are a little trickier since you would have to waste half the clip freezing them, reload, and then land all the precision shots again to refreeze the champ, and rinse and repeat. As for the unstop and overload champs, you're much better off using a trace rifle because in general, traces are much more consistent on stunning. Yeah, you could keep refreezing champs like you do with the barriers, but why would you put all that strain on yourself when you could just use a more viable weapon? In my eyes, where this gun really gets a chance to shine though, is Grandmaster Nightfalls. Of course, if you have it set up with a decent stasis build. Because of the difficulty scaling in Grandmasters, the Wicked Implement could have a chance to take the spotlight, because every enemy is such a high level, they won't die in 2 hits, you can actually have a chance to use the perks it comes with. The gun doesn't have much of a damage drop off, and the range on it is actually pretty decent, but the way they went making about this weapon doesn't give it much of a use outside of GMs or possibly Master Law sectors. But in the end, if I were any one of you, I would go ahead and spend the time fishing and running the secret mission, because I think this gun will eventually get a buff in the future, but for now it's just not that viable, at least in my opinion. Wicked Implement is a very hit or miss weapon depending where you use it, and how you use it of course. It could become better, but for the time being I would pick it up just to have it, but other than that, you're better off running an arc build since that seems to be all the rage of the season. But who knows? That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the gun and drop a sub. Hey, it takes 2 seconds. I'm 500 subs off of 4K. And I'd love to hit that goal with you guys and grow. Have a good one and happy grinding.